who will be giving the talk on conflict management. She is at the ETH under the staff of diversity and collaboration and has run lots of cool workshops and seminars on this topic, which is how we were introduced to her. And I want to thank you so much for being here, Barbara. And I will hand the stage off to you.
Thank you so much, Marin. It's a pleasure to have you, and I think it's important that also you as scientists, me as a former scientist, we know a little bit about conflict management. It helps us not only in our job, but also in our daily life, I think. What I will talk about today is I will give a short explanation what conflict is, about conflict types and conflict reactions. Then I will talk about perspectives and positions and concerns. Some general aspects of what conflict means also for our body, and some de-escalating strategies, and then some short notices on dealing with strong emotions. So conflict. I think we all have an idea what conflict is. It's often a different perception of a situation, and that leads to opposing and obviously incompatible positions. There is usually a high emotional involvement. The situation is perceived as stressful, and all parties feel hindered by the other pursuing their goals and activities. Often parties depend on each other, and a solution to the situation seems only be possible against the interests of other parties. The conflict symptoms are we tend to go into like a black and white perception of things. So the gray is some sort of missing. So we emphasize and over-evaluate separating aspects. We ignore or even negate what we share. And then often it comes about that we interpret others' actions as deceptional and insincere. And so we give some motives in there that don't help really in the situation. And of course, we attribute negative intentions and motives. I put here together some conflict types because some people were trying to find a way to have this big, unclear, and overwhelming thing to get it somehow handleable. And so made a structure on the types of conflict. This is only a choice of them, and but the most important conflict types are on this slide. So what's important is, or what we find often in organizations or something, is a structural conflict. That means it doesn't depend usually on the persons who sit in the respective positions. because there is a structural, I mean, if you think in a company about sales and quality management, they have a with their with what their job description makes a conflict, I think. Another conflict type I would like to point out is the value conflict, because this is we often have it. It often makes really strong reactions, and we don't know where it comes from. And often, I mean, that's nothing you can debate about. No one will be able, and no one should even wish to change your values. Then we have preferred conflict reaction styles. I mean, there is a list of conflict reaction that I think American psychologist and family therapist Virginia Satir put them together. And in principle, we can use all of them, but we do have our own. Usually, we have a preferred style. And I don't know if you know your preferred conflict style. I would like to invite you into a short reflection to think about your own conflict style or conflict reaction. And do you know, like, what conflict reactions do you prefer, or do you think is the most difficult for you in others, if you see that? So I give you 3 minutes.
Could you perhaps also share the last slide where we can see the different types? Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't know. I hope you could learn something new about yourself and your conflict behavior, maybe. And I would like to go on with another aspect of conflict. Do you think can there be any positive? Is there something positive about conflict? It would be nice if you could use the Menti here and just put in a few thoughts that arise. If you have any ideas what good effects conflicts could have. I'm sorry, I don't see any results. Do you see any?
So we can submit it, and then if you go to next question, I think we're getting different questions. So I'm not sure. We're not seeing the results from other people.
Okay. I don't see any results at all. So I don't know what happened, but if I go on, then, well.
Actually, it didn't really work with me. I wanted to write, it takes you out of the comfort zone, and then it stopped after comfort. And when I said submit, obviously it did not submit.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So maybe we have.
But I was able to see it actually, the results.
Okay.
So after
Okay.
answering the second question, you can see the results.
Aha. Okay. But the second question will come only after some more.
Oh.
If you could see results, that's why maybe you can read some.
Yeah. Productive growth, challenges, get to know other. I mean, there are quite a lot. Get to know others. Clarity, focus, new approaches. Things about like rising awareness or like new perspectives.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I put together some points what are really why you could see also conflict as an opportunity, because often you reach better solutions if you are on a factual based thing, then that any controversy, I think, could bring you to better solutions. If there are tensions in a subject or also in a relationship, it's good to be aware of it and to talk about it. That means this is already a de-escalating strategy. You could overcome misunderstandings or become aware of misunderstandings. And it's also a possibility for us to set boundaries, for example, and to protect our own interests. And the side effect, I think, is quite interesting. It can show you how much energy for you is in the topic. And maybe also the idea that you could use that energy maybe in a more productive way or on another field. Okay, then I would like to go on to the next topic, perspective, positions, and concerns. And I start this with a citation from David Augsburger, who said, most of the time we assume that we share a single reality with others, but we do not. We simultaneously live in multiple realities. If you don't believe that, please have a look at this picture. And then I prepared another Menti, and I'm not sure if I'm able to, if we can see any results here.
Barbara, hello. Just to tell you, before this main team, I got exactly the questions for this one. I was questioned if I see faces or butterfly.
Oh, okay.
So I will try again.
Okay, thank you. We checked it and it worked yesterday, but now I don't see anything. Maybe someone can tell me what can someone see the results?
Yeah.
No, I cannot, and I cannot submit.
What I see so far is that 3 people have seen butterflies, or a butterfly. 1 person saw the face, and 5 people saw leaves.
I didn't understand that. Could you please repeat?
Hear me?
Your audio is not very good, Marin.
Maybe.
Yes, so the result is that 3 persons have selected butterfly, 3
Okay.
faces, and 5 neither both.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we see that we have really different perspective on that, and this is something that it's really important to keep in mind, because out of our perception we create something like an absolute truth for us, and it must not be the truth for another person. And so it means that based on all the experiences that we made in our lives, if we are aware of them or not is not so important, and also based on our values, and some of our values we don't know that well, because sometimes we inherited them. We didn't choose them on purpose or something. So that's why we think of as the same situation that we watch in a very different kind of way, for example. And this is really important if it comes to conflict. And based on this absolute truth, persons figure out what they want in a conflict. And then they often tell you what they want, and this is often a very fixed thing, and it's a specific claim, or a fixed demand, and I think you may understand that it's not a good position to start negotiating if someone is still on the level of a position. And I think if you really are interested in a constructive way to deal with the conflict, it's important to come away from this position. And the position, it was formed on the basis of our needs and desires. And so it's important to know a little bit more what's behind. So what helps in these situations is really to reflect on our own position, for example. Why do we want something? What does it stand for? Why is that so important for me? And which need or concern lies really at the basis of it? And of course, these are also the questions that we usually ask if we talk with conflicting parties. These are the questions we try to ask and really get a grab on something that lies beneath the positions that we hear. And so you could do that in any conflict as well. And you could also think of the other party. What could their perspective be? And can you imagine what lies behind it? And the best thing you could do is, I mean, of course you can build hypotheses, but then don't forget that you build that it's not sure, that you have an idea maybe, but then you better ask some questions that brings you the more information, what lies really if your hypothesis is correct. And if you really want, I mean, that's it's always if you are interested and open, and able to listen with curiosity. This is also something that usually comes across. So both of the questions, also the ones for yourself, you can ask them also to another conflict party, and you will get a little bit more knowledge on what's really important for the other party. So then some general aspects on conflict. First of all, it's necessary, I think, to understand, and probably you already know this, that conflict is a sort of stress for our body. And it's not important what type of conflict, if it's hot or cold, or whatever, but it's the higher our stress level, the less we are able to use our slower and more reflected brain system. We have a window of tolerance. So in this optimal arousal zone, we can use our competencies, and we are just in our normal state of mind. But stress, like a conflict, for example, can bring you either into hyper or hypoarousal. And that means you're out of your comfort zone or your optimal arousal zone. And it's also important to know that your optimum zone is not always doesn't always have the same size. That means in times when you have really a lot of stress, or maybe you have also some issues in your private life or whatever, this optimal arousal zone will become smaller. So it's important to be aware of your own body signals too. That's why I would like to ask you to have another short self-reflection. Do you know your bodily reactions to conflict or stress? You could, if you know them, or if you learn to recognize them, you can use them as an early warning systems. Do you think 2 minutes will be fine? So I hope you could find another small aspect of your conflict reaction. I just want to bring to your attention again that what is not important, what you cannot do if you are working in survival mode, like if you are in hyper or hypoarousal. You are not able usually to feel compassionate, to reflect, to act on your competencies, to express yourself in a differentiated way. You're not able to solve problems or understand other parties' concerns. Your body is much too engaged into making sure that everything remains safe for the body. So it's necessary to be able to calm down. And what is helpful usually in a conflict situation is that we need outlining clarity often and something that helps us, that gives structure. And this structure also can be a basis for an informed decision, for example, what you are going to do now. And it can again bring you into connection, and you can feel yourself like a self-efficacy. Another helpful thing is to ask yourself in a conflict situation, what can I control? Maybe you know that, but it's sometimes, I mean, I use this really often, and still I come into situations that someone tells me, well, it would be good maybe, can you control this? Think about it. And then you think, oh, what do you really have under control? What is your circle of control? What is your circle of influence? And what is your circle of concern? And of course, your circle of there are issues in the circle of concern that are important to you, but does it make sense to use energy and I don't know what else into that one where you have the least possibility to change something or in that situation? And it's also important to think about the level of a possible conflict resolution, for example. Are the parties in the conflict really, are they able to negotiate the issue? Is it negotiable? Or is there maybe, for example, is there a law involved that you have to take into account? I mean, it doesn't make sense to reach a resolution that comes out which is against the law then. So it's really important also to keep that in mind. Then as for de-escalating strategies or successful conflict management things is really, there are some core competencies, I think. One of them is really listening. And you may think, well, okay, of course, everyone can listen. I mean, you cannot close your ears. They are always open. But the question is, are we really listening, or is just sound coming to our ear? It's important also to be able to regulate your own emotions, de-escalation through communication, relationship, or the language you use, and looking for a resolution, of course. Oh, I think I went too fast. Listening is really an important competency if it comes to conflict. And you can if you don't think you are a good listener, then you could try really some of the things that are described here, and try them out and see, do they have an effect to the other person? Because oftentimes we create like resistance or something just because the other person has the idea that what they said didn't really reach us. We didn't take it in what they told us. We didn't understand. So it's really important to have some try some of these things here on the slide and see if it changes anything. Then the role of good relationships is I think it's really an important thing to try and stay in connection with whoever. Also, if you have a conflict with somebody, if you can stay on a personal level in some sort of connection, it's much easier to address situations beforehand. So it's really also a de-escalating strategy. And if you're able to keep like an attitude that signals the other person that you don't have in mind to change them or something, they are okay. That's so helpful, because if you think you are this person and you have the idea that somebody means they want to change you, how do you react? You try to protect yourself. Also, body language can be really an important part in the way you send a message, for example. Through posture, non and paraverbal signals, there is really a lot you are you are transporting. Then, as de-escalating strategies, it's good to take a breath before a reaction, and it's also good to separate the issue from the person. You can do that, for example, also with your body language, saying, "This was not okay, but you are okay." It doesn't mean that you are not okay. It's just an issue between us. And you can, if there is still a shared goal, you can lead the attention to that. Use development-oriented language, or, for example, I don't know if you know a nonviolent communication, which is something that you talk about first about something you observed and you saw, and then can ask questions as to the other person. And also important, if it's really getting too heated and you are or you feel the danger of becoming overwhelmed or something, take a break. Sometimes a situation arises where you cannot find any useful outcome. And then it's good to take a break and restart at another time when both are calm again. Then this is really there is small things in the language that can really change a lot. And if you the left column is like about it doesn't give any room for development or change. For example, if you say you never clean up your workspace or something, but if you just say like in the past it wasn't always possible for you, or it was not yet possible for you to always leave your workspace clean, then that means that it can change in the future, at least with some small works. Then I think I would like to come to when strong emotions are involved. The thing is, can you think of a conflict without emotional engagement? I think if you really don't bother about something, you won't enter into a conflict about an issue. So every conflict is there. There are emotions involved, and I think that sometimes always we mix up like that. We think hot conflicts are more emotional than cold conflicts. And a hot conflict is the one that everyone can see, and there are outbursts and maybe yelling or whatever. But cold conflicts can be as intense as hot ones. They are just not so open to see. There is I mean, sometimes you come into a room and you have this really strange feeling that something is not really well. So we can feel also this this cold silence, for example, or this passive aggressiveness. What can you do if you expect to get into a conflict situation? One thing is really, I think you can prepare yourself. It's good to know your own triggers, for example. One can train to stay with oneself and not get too much into emotional turmoil. It's also a good preparation to think about the other party's goals, perceptions, and motives, maybe. And of course, know your own goals and know where your limits are. Like, what is, for example, what would be the best result you can reach, and what could be the worst? Sometimes, I mean, the worst result of something is an hour of a lost hour on work that wasn't successful or something. So is it really worth it to get into a big argument about that? That's what you can decide. Then it's good to know your own triggers. And there are some questions you could ask yourself. For example, what are the experiences you have in your family, for example? What conflict experiences or what conflict thoughts do you know with your family, friends, at the workplace? What was the worst experience? Did you learn something from a conflict? And like create some awareness as to your own sensitivities. Sometimes you realize maybe that a special kind of behavior, small things sometimes really bring you to a to a mood that you think, it's good to know that. And also it's good to think about what similarities, for example, the someone on the other side does have that really it's difficult to watch, I think, sometimes. This would be something that could be worth your while. And I always like to cite Viktor Frankl here, who said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And he said also that in that space is our power really to choose our response. And sometimes, I mean, I think you've all have been in situations where you get a stimulus, and before you could even think there, you had a response, and maybe not a really constructive one. So it's good to know that you can widen that space, so that you can choose really how you would like to respond. Sometimes it's just the breath that is enough to give you enough space in that moment to choose another response. Stress is in general a really good thing if you are too much aroused, or if another party is too much aroused, or in a conflict, because breath has a direct impact on the autonomous nervous system and vice versa. That means the speed, depth, and pattern of your breath communicates with your brain about your physical, emotional, and cognitive state, and the body responds appropriately. But that means, for example, also with there are some breathing techniques like box breathing or something that can really help you to become more relaxed also in conflict situations, or in stressful situations in general. Or maybe you know of other practices that are able to bring you down and relax in situations of stress or conflict, which is more or less the same. You could try to, if it's possible, to agree on rules in a conflict discussion. That, for example, you try not to blame others, or you are not finger pointing, you let yourself speak to the end, you are not interrupting, or stuff like that. If you are in a conflict with more people, maybe you find someone you can have a good relationship with. So it's very helpful to be able to create or maintain a connection or a bond. And it's also very important that you yourself present yourself as a consistent and trustworthy partner in that conflict. It's good to stay on a factual level, and if you see that others are really in an emotional turmoil, acknowledge it. You can talk about that without judging, please, if you do. So stay respectful and appreciative, and as to scientists, I tell you, it's important if you are in a conflict with non-scientists, try and use a common language, as a language both sides that both sides understand. And don't think of the other party of your enemy. You don't need to tell them, they will feel it, I think. You are good. You're in a very good conflict manager if you are able to translate high emotions as offers of communication, if you can translate accusations, claims, blames into requests. If you see resistance as a sign for something that hasn't been seen, and if you can, I don't know, have some appreciation for a conflict because you can see it as a learning arrangement. And if none of that helps, then mind your own role. Is it really your role to like calm down a conflict or moderate a conflict? If nothing, if you couldn't get on yourself, then get help. There are people. It's also for us as people who have to do with conflict every day, more or less. If you are really personally involved, you are not a good moderator or mediator. And with that, I would like to end, and thank you very much for your attention, and I'm open for questions.
Great, thank you very much.